my favorite artists that I have followed album to album to album and love everything they do. And it's also one new band that I found at the end of 2024 that I cannot stop listening to. And I picked up their album, which I believe is a perfect album. Perfect. No notes. Stunning. And I'm really into the band in general. So I think I'll actually start with that record because I'm so excited to talk about it. And that is gonna be the band Mannequin Pussy with the record I Got Heaven. The album cover itself is kind of hard to see because it's all kind of dark. It's not a lot of contrast. But we can flip it over to the back here to look at the songs. I don't know if this was intentional for vinyl or if it's just the flow that they wanted the songs to go. But the way that this is broken up for flipping the record over is perfection. On both sides, it starts with a song that's heavier, and then it just takes you on a journey. And on both sides, the last song is a little smoother, a little softer, and it just makes you want to keep flipping it over and playing it. Let's see if we can do a little tracing here. I don't want to take the plastic off because I want to keep it really nice, so I apologize for the glare. I've got like a bunch of different windows that are all kind of throwing light in different places. It's hard for me to tell what it looks like for you. But here we've got Mannequin Pussy. I Got Heaven. I love this album so much. If you're saying you have to pick a favorite song, I'm gonna have to pick two. And just know that every song on here is my favorite song. But I Got Heaven, the title track, and Loud Bark are especially perfect. I found this band through their live KEXP performance. KEXP is a little radio station in Seattle, and most of my bands that I enjoy listening to have stopped by the KEXP studio at some point to record a live session. Theirs is especially good. The presence of the band members, the energy that they're creating. Goddamn, it's so good. If we're talking about the vibe of this record, how would I even begin to describe this one? It's like a yell of frustration that turns into a sigh, I guess, is maybe how I would describe the vibe of this record, but I don't know if that's even capturing it right. I'm usually pretty good at saying how something makes me feel, but this one's a challenge for me. I feel lucky to exist in the timeline in which this record was put out. That's how much I love it. And let's take a look at the liner notes here because they're song are written on. Maybe I'll read some lyrics. This is like poetry. I should maybe say that the band it's a female lead vocalist. The influences are definitely a little bit of punk. She does some really good, like powerful vocals, harsher vocals, but not like as extreme as metal. Definitely more on the punk side of things, with also a lot of 90s kind of influence. If you know the band Belly from the 90s, I've seen a lot of people compare them to Hole, which I could see that a little bit, but I think they're a little different. If we were to read out some lyrics here. I went and walked myself like a dog without a leash. Now I'm growling at a stranger. I am biting at their knees. And if I wanted it, you really think I'd wait for the permission, for protection and assurances that all would be delivered? I highly recommend that you check this band out if any of this sounds interesting. And I recommend that you first listen to I've Got Heaven or Loud Bark, specifically the live KEXP performance. Just search that on YouTube. You will not be disappointed. Next up is the Deftones album. Deftones, self-titled. I'm a huge Deftones fan. I got really into them in college. There was a bar in my college town that had like a jukebox, but a digital one. And I would put my money into that machine and I'd play Deftones, Rob Zombie, Chevelle, 9 Inch Nails, some variation of songs by them. It wasn't always the vibe, but I'd play them every single time. Oh, A Perfect Circle was in that rotation as well. So sorry to anyone that hated my music tastes at the college bars, but I would listen to that and play pool with my now husband. We'd have a ball. This album, I kind of feel like the vibe of this is being pissed off in the desert. But you're not like aggressive pissed off, you're just introspective pissed off. My favorite song on this album, hands down, one of my favorite songs by the band, period, is Minerva. To me, the opening few notes of Minerva sounds like the deep breath you take before you step off the edge of the universe. And then you're just floating. It's a perfect song. The rest of the album, it's good. I really like some of their newer stuff that got a little bit more experimental. I would say this album's still just really heavy. It still has those like shoegaze elements to it, but a little more traditionally heavy, I guess. A moment for the album artwork here. Deftones is kind of an interesting band to me because a lot like Radiohead, I'm usually very big on lyrics, but with Radiohead I don't actually care what the lyrics lyrics are. It's more about the experience overall of the song and the way that it makes me feel. And that's how I feel about Deftones too. When I was listening to this record, I had pulled out the liner notes, which I've got right here, and I was listening to the song and following along with the lyrics, and I realized that I never knew what any of the words were to the songs that I've heard over and over again. I had never really noticed that I wasn't listening to the words. I was just listening to the song. And if you look here, the lyrics for each song are really brief. Some of them are a little bit longer, but most of them are just a few lines per song. The way that Gino spreads out the vowels in a word is super weird and interesting. Not the way that you'd be used to hearing a word sang in a song. He'll like stretch it out and bend it in all these weird ways. So even when I was reading the lyrics, I sometimes didn't even recognize the word that he was saying because of how he'd stretched it. And that was kind of fun. Recorded at The Spot, Sacramento, California, Studio X, Seattle, Washington. That's cool. I didn't know that part of this had been recorded in Seattle. I'm repping my Sub Pop shirt from Seattle today. It's 18 degrees outside Fahrenheit where I live right now, so it's so cold. And I decided today was the day to put on my pink t-shirt and a bunch of blush. I don't know what's going on. I feel unhinged. So that's the second record. The next one that I picked up is It Splits by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And the album artwork, so beautiful, so cool. I think the Yeah Yeah Yeahs are magic. The vibe of this particular record is The Weekend and all that entails. Getting ready to go out, going out and partying, coming home with somebody, staying at their house all weekend, falling in love with them a little bit, maybe not admitting it to them or to yourself, and then Sunday night rolls around and you're back to your regular life. This has songs like Zero, Heads Will Roll, Soft Shock. I feel like those are probably some of the songs that people would know best. There is an acoustic version of Soft Shock on the deluxe edition of this record. That is one of the most beautiful songs that I've ever heard. The original version, though, is amazing. That song in particular, to me, is like when you're dating someone in the summer where you have not a lot of structure to your life, like you don't have a 9 to 5, and you're just, this is my interpretation of the song, by the way. I don't know if this is how they intended it to be understood, but it's like when you're spending one night at your house and one night at their house and a couple nights at their house and then you're back at your house, and time just slips by like that. Being in love in the summer and the way that time feels different when you're in love. How everything that you're experiencing perceived differently by you because you're in love. Oh, it's so good. But like, heads will roll. Party banger. So good. We've also got Runaway, which is like power. I think Karen O's voice is so amazing. The emotion that she can convey in her vocals without necessarily being like harsh vocals, they're just powerful. So, love this album. Love the yeah, yeah, yes. I don't really party anymore. I'm like in my mid-30s. To me, a weekend now is like chores around the cabin here, and then like going to bed by 9:30. But in my college party girl era, this was iconic. That's the next record. Now I just have the lyrics to Soft Shock in my head and they just make me smile. Next up is the record Elephant Shell by one of my favorite bands of all time, Tokyo Police Club. They broke up this year after being together since the early 2000s. I found them in high school. The first song I ever heard by them was off of this album. It was called Graves. It was on some MTV channel, not regular MTV, but like MTV 8 Indie or something. I don't know. But I was watching that channel and they were showing a bunch of live performances from a bunch of up-and-coming bands. And Tokyo Police Club came on and played Graves, and I was immediately hooked. This was back in the day, so I went to my local record store. And I went to the CD section. Scanning. I really didn't think they'd have anything, but I was hopeful. And they did have one CD by Tokyo Police Club, and it was their first record, which was called A Lesson in Crime. I had that CD in my car in high school, and I listened to it over and over and over and over and over again. And when I finally got my hands on Elephant Shell, I put the album on my iPod and I played it the entire summer between high school and college. And when I moved into my dorm room in college, this was what I was playing as I was unpacking. And then I followed along each step of the way. Every album they put out, I listened to, I loved. No skips on any of them. Seriously, the evolution of this band is incredible. It's the only band I've seen live more than once. I love them so much. I think I have to say, because Graves is the song that introduced me to the band, it's gotta be my favorite song on the album, but Juno, Tessellate, 60s Remake, Nursery Academy, also good. The vibe of Elephant Shell is you go out to a restaurant to have dinner with a friend that you grew up with, but you haven't seen each other in a couple years, and you spend the whole night talking, catching up. You shut down the restaurant because you're there so long, just catching up with each other. And after I don't have anything else to say other than I love this record and this band. So I highly recommend you check it out. Great album. And the last record that I want to talk about today is Mezzanine by Massive Attack. E C C A N I N E. Mezzanine by Massive Attack. This album is so good. First of all, the fact that the band utilizes more than one lead singer makes it feel incredibly interesting because you never know what you're gonna get. You never know which vocalist you're gonna get or if you're gonna get vocals at all. They have a lot of awesome instrumental songs. And it's just so vibey. Like, you put this on and it creates a mood for you. You're along for the ride. The songs are quite long. Like, each song is pretty long. So this is a two disc set, if you will. There's 2 records in here. Also, I had this album on my iPod, so the cover was always really small, and I always just thought it was like a picture of black paint being thrown. And now that I have the record, I think it's a beetle, which is wild. I'll let you look at it up close here. Do you see the beetle? So this whole time I thought it was, there's a song called Black Milk, and I thought it was like a play on that. But first of all, the album artwork is stunning. Second, the way that it can create an entire atmosphere. You're on another planet when you're listening to this record. I would say the vibe of this record is you're somewhere hot, like humid, sticky, like you feel the stickiness on your skin, sultry kind of vibe. It's like the middle of the day, super hot, and you're around a bunch of other people. I was trying to explain this to my husband, how this song makes me feel. I told him it makes me feel like I'm in a Jason Bourne movie and I'm bopping from like city to city across like Africa and Europe and Asia. Definitely well, maybe even South America. You're not in North America when you're listening to this record though, that's for sure. You are the sexy spy accomplishing your mission. You're in and out before anyone even notices you. You are a mystery. That's how this makes me feel. And when I told him that as we were listening to it, he agreed. So if you think that sounds interesting, you're gonna love this. My husband doesn't typically, he's not into this kind of music really, but when we put this on, he likes it. Every song is perfection. I think the one that most people would be familiar with is Teardrop. But the way that I found this band was from a movie called Stay, S-T-A-Y, and the song Angel was used in that movie, and it did something to my brain chemistry, altered me forever, and that's why I got this album. Some of my other favorite songs are Inertia Creeps and Man Next Door. It's so good. And that's gonna be the last to share with you today. I am on a low buy year, so I'm gonna just talk about the records that I have purchased up to this point, but I don't plan on buying any more this year, so just a heads up, I'm not gonna buy records just to make videos with them. When I did my first video sharing some of my favorite records with you, it made me realize that I wanted to get a little bit more representation in my collection from bands with women lead vocalists and people of color instead of all white dudes, which is what was in that video. And I had a lot of fun writing down every full album that I knew I loved that had more representation in it. And I've got almost everything that I would consider greatest of all time, no skips sort of records. So I also don't feel like I need to really add any more to my collection, so I'm probably just going to talk about a couple records at a time when I do videos like these and go a little bit more in depth with them like I did today. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this style more than the rapid fire that I did in my first video. And I hope that you're inspired to go listen to some music today. Happy listening. A lot of us are in a moment right now where we're looking for a little bit of escapism. So, this is a PSA from your local ASM artist.